Morning, YouTube. I want to share a testimony with you guys today. And this testimony is something that I've never shared with I've shared it with people, just not on social media. But this testimony I'm sharing with you guys because I want you guys to know and understand that I know and understand that there's somebody who was in the same boat as me, as I was in, I should say. And this could encourage them. Because it is the work of God. So here we go. I'd say about in 2016, I was like 32 years old. In 2016, God delivered me from the spirit of rage. Rage. Now, I'll give you a background real quick on how this spirit developed. And then you can understand from a young boy to 33 years old what I was carrying, even being born again at 23. So, when I was a kid, I had an abusive father who would physically beat on me and some of my other siblings. Never sexual, but just physical abuse. Okay, so after that, my parents separated and I got older. And as I started getting older, I started looking for love in relationships and girlfriends and stuff like that. I wanted a girlfriend so bad. Maybe I could turn the pain that I had into love, whatever. So I would take the time to get to know somebody and become their boyfriend, or female, of course, and become their boyfriend. And, we'd have a little kid relationships and stuff like that growing up. I think my first girlfriend, I'm not going to say her name, but I think my first girlfriend, I was like 10 years old, 12 years old, something like that. Anyway, so I started developing these relationships with these girls over the years, and everyone ended almost the same way, with them cheating on me with someone who claimed to be my friend. How about that? So, and I had to learn how to forgive these people. So imagine, you're physically hurt by your father, the one who's supposed to protect you and keep you safe from danger from a cruel world. So imagine in your mind as a child and growing up as a teenager, you're like, man, I didn't get love from my dad like I was supposed to. I didn't get protection from my dad like I was supposed to. Let me look for it in a relationship. And then in that relationship, the brothers that you thought were your friends were sneaking behind your back with your girlfriends. And how would that make you feel when you're trying to look for love and trying to look for a change in your life? Hence, I didn't realize this back then, but I was looking for God. Just didn't know. So this happened a lot in my life, to the point where my heart turned dark. And I used to call myself Black Heart. I used to say that to myself. I'm like, I'm Black Heart. Didn't realize that it was a demon and I was saying that. Didn't realize Black Heart is a superhero / whatever. But if you look on the video game, Marvel vs. Capcom, or whatever other ones, there's a character on there named Blackheart who is actually a demon, who throws demons at people. He's a demon. And I didn't know that. And I didn't base it off that character either. I just said, I'm Blackheart. My heart is black. I'm a Blackheart. So all I said, I'm Blackheart. And I would tell myself that all the time. And I got to the point where I got so hurt by so many women, so many females in my life that I really thought, I fell in love with, but regardless. And they all did the same thing to me. And I'm wondering, why is this happening to me? Like, am I really that bad of a person? So I started thinking about all this pain and all this rejection and being cheated on, and then it goes all the way back to the abuse of my father. So I'm going through life trying to be a better man each and every day. I'm trying to be a better man, but I can't because I'm so broken and so hurt inside and so filled with so much anger and rage and want revenge on everybody. So at one point in my life, I said, you know what? I don't care who I hurt. I said this out loud too. I don't care who I hurt. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to use who I want. I'm going to manipulate who I want to get what I want. And I meant that. I meant that deep in my heart. And I did just that. I manipulated women by saying sweet things to them. Like, yeah, babe, I love you. Manipulating. Smooth game. I'm not trying to brag. Them days are done and over with. But smooth game when I was younger. Smooth game. So I tried to appeal to women as, he's a really great guy, but it was all to manipulate. And not all of them. Some of them I actually enjoyed being friends with. But other than that, the ones that I wanted we're just going to keep it, PG. The ones that I wanted, I would manipulate and make them think I'm this guy until I got what I wanted. And then it was peace or forget you, just be a jerk. And all this stemmed from the abuse and rejection and the hurt and stuff that I had from people growing up, especially my dad. It all goes back to him. So one night I was, this is crazy. One night I was sleeping in my bed at like 33, 32. I'm sleeping in my bed in my apartment. I go to sleep. And when I go to sleep, let me back up. I became a born again Christian at 23 years old. And I was living the life. And then I backslid at the age of like 27. And so this was a time period where I backslid and I felt like God was on the other side of the galaxy. I thought he was away from me and I didn't know any better because it was the first time I ever backslid and fell into sin. And I was so scared of dying during those years. I was like on a 3 or 4 year rebellion, 3 or 4 year backslide, which is an eternity. And God showed me mercy and grace all that time. Okay, so leading up to that, and even during that time I backslid, I got into a relationship and a woman cheated on me. But God let me know. And it's funny because, shout out to my nieces. I'm not going to say which ones, but shout out to my nieces. We can laugh about it now, but at that moment it wasn't funny when the girl cheated on me and God let me know that she cheated on me. So I asked the woman, did you cheat on me? I said, did you cheat on me? I said, because I already know, don't lie to me. And then the woman said, yeah, I did with this guy and blah, blah, blah. And I told her I forgive her, but I was still upset. So when this woman cheated on me, I just asked her a question. And I know that it was retribution and payback for the things that I've done to other people. I didn't accept it at that moment, but I accepted it later. So I say to the woman, I said, I'm disappointed in you. And I tried to handle it as mature as possible, not flip out. And it was hard not to flip out. But I said to the woman, I forgive you for cheating on me. I really do. And I said, but I just have one question. What did I do to deserve that from you? And the woman said on the phone, which my nieces love to tease me about even to this day, she said, oh, shut up. You got played. Get over it. And she hung up the phone on me. Now, I worked with this woman, so I had to quit the job, obviously, because I was completely embarrassed. Claiming to be a Christian, backslid on God, couldn't preach the gospel. My testimony was messed up, messed around with this woman. And then she totally embarrassed me. So it was like the devil was like, yeah, I got you. You don't have a testimony. You don't have a word. You were doing things that everybody else on this job was doing. And then you got cheated on and left. That had me hot, heated, upset, hurt, embarrassed, anger, rage. And I'm like, man, I can't win in life. I can't win in life. No matter what I do, I can't win in life. And then now we're getting up to 32 years old. So I'm 32 years old. I'm sleeping in the bed one night. And I have this dream. And in this dream, I'm the Incredible Hulk. I looked at my hands. I was green. And I heard myself. Roar! Now, we all know the Hulk is not a superhero. That brother was made, from, was it Gamma or whatever? And he is full of anger and rage uncontrollably. Yes, we know a woman learned how to tame him, but he is an uncontrollable rage. That's why he said, you won't like me if I get angry. Because when he gets angry, he changes into a demon. That's not a hero. You call him a Hulk, whatever. He changes into a demon and he's full of rage. With that being said, in the dream, I was the Hulk. And I looked at my hands in the dream. And I was like, what? And I knew, it's like, I looked at my hands and I was thinking with my conscious mind, but I was still in the dream and I knew. And I looked at my hands and I was green and my arms were big and I was like, Rrr! I was doing that in the dream, scared. And I was running in this huge forest. I was running and jumping and screaming with so much rage in me. I was trying to get it out. And I couldn't, and I was just so angry that I was running freely in this forest, running and jumping and screaming. When I woke up from that dream, I heard myself in the bed. I'm laying in the bed, and when I woke up from the dream, I opened my eyes, and I heard my voice going, something was in me, spirit of rage. Scared, and let me remind you, I was born again, scared to death what I heard from my own throat, from my own voice. So I went to church and I told my pastor at that moment, I need help. I need deliverance from what this is. He said, my wife specializes in that. I'll set you up and you can talk to her. Went to the church, talked to her. She said, you got to go all the way back to the beginning, where the first hurt, where the first disappointment, where the first blah, blah, blah. And she said, and I know you know where it's at. And she knew me since I was a kid, and she knew what my father did to me. And she said, you have to forgive your dad. Listen, man, I done went so many years without forgiving him. She said, you got to go all the way back and forgive him because that's where it starts. And I said, all right. So she had me do an exercise because he was dead, obviously. Well, he was dead. So she had me do this exercise where I punch a pillow. She said, pretend your dad is sitting in this chair. And she said, and punch the pillow if you get mad. But I want you to talk to him as if he can't talk back to you, and you tell him how you feel. And I was like, all right. And she said, remember, if you get angry while you're saying these words, punch the pillow. So I did that exercise. And it was embarrassing at first, but then I got into it and I realized, this is good to get whatever it is out. So after I did that, we had that session. That was the only session I needed. A week later from that session, I'm at home and I'm sleeping in my bed. And as I'm sleeping in my bed, I have a dream. But I don't even think it was a dream. I think it was something God arranged in the spirit. And this is why. In this dream, I'm in Madison Square Garden, okay? I'm in the basketball arena. But in Madison Square Garden where there's all the seats and then they dim the lights in the crowd so you really can't see, but the court is lit up? That's what happened in my dream. And it wasn't the New York Knicks sign. I just used Madison Square Garden because that's the only gym that I know, the only arena that I know that darkens the seats, or at least used to darken the crowd while you played on the court. So as I'm walking in center court, there is no Knicks sign, let me just say that. But as I'm walking in center court, I see my dad walk up to me, and we're face to face. Let me remind you, he's dead. He was dead. He died in 2001. But I'm walking to the center court, like how you're about to do a jump ball. I'm walking to center court, and I'm standing there, and then I see him walk towards me. And as he walks towards me, I'm looking him in his face, and let me remind you, I'm a grown man, so I'm looking at him in the face. And this is literally the first time I've seen him since I was 20 or 19 or something like that. So I'm looking him in his face, and he walks up to me, and he don't say nothing. And I'm looking at him, and then God's voice came from above. And God said, tell him how you feel. God said, tell him how you feel. Next thing I know, I started speaking, pointing in his face, yelling at him, saying, it's because of you, this, that, getting every possible thing that I could think of out that was the cause of my life because of his abuse. Now, it wasn't necessarily the women, okay? It wasn't the little girlfriends that I had during the time growing up, but they contributed to the anger and rage from the beginning. So as I'm yelling at him and pointing at him, and I'm going off, I'm not cussing at him, but I'm going off and saying all this and pointing in his face and then yelling at him and stuff like that. And he's standing there and he's looking at me, and he has this look of so much sorrow on his face. So much sorrow. I've never seen him look like that. But he had such a look of sorrow, and he couldn't talk. And I just remember he had these tears coming down his eyes, and it's almost like he was forced to hear me. He couldn't escape it. And he had these tears coming down his eyes. And I was saying everything that he did that just messed me up. And everything and how it affected me. And I was yelling and said, you could have been da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Went off on him. But here's the thing. As I was going off on him, this is the only way I could describe it. When I was going off on him, I felt like God, well, I know God was pulling the spirit of rage out of me. And after I was expressing myself, the only way I could describe how it felt was when it was almost like God, it was like this spirit was like a rope inside of me. It's the only way I can explain it. And God was pulling it out. He was pulling it out, and I felt it in my back. He was pulling it out while I was expressing myself and yelling at him. And I felt God pulling it out. And I recognized God's taking the spirit of rage out of me. So as I'm yelling at him, and I'm going off, I felt it pulling out. He was pulling it out of me, pulling it out, pulling out. And there was a lot of pain. There was a lot of hurt. There was a lot of rage. There was a lot of resentment. There was a lot of everything within that spirit. And it was the cause of it all. My dad was the cause of it all. So God's pulling it out of me, and finally till it gets to the end. And I remember the last pull, when he pulled it, I was like, ugh. And I woke up. And when I woke up, I sat up in my bed, and I sat there for a minute, because you know when you wake up in the morning, you can actually examine yourself to see how you're feeling. The spirit of rage was so dominant in my life that I knew it, that I felt like I had an advantage with my strength because of it. I felt like the spirit of rage made me stronger, which it probably did. Demons made me stronger, whatever it was. And I remember I woke up and I was so calm, and I just started breathing, and I started sitting there thinking about what just happened. And I started looking for the spirit of rage, because when you have a spirit in you, you know it's there, whether you want to be in denial or not. You know it's there because it's in your body. So you know it's there. And I knew the spirit of rage was in me during my life, because I was able to understand how to tap into that thing and let it take reign over me, let it rule in my body, but still had a little control. There were times where the spirit of rage took over me to the point where I was gone and my body was just reacting. I almost killed somebody when I was like 21, 22. Before I became born again, I almost killed some guy from choking him, and it was like I was watching my body do it. That's how dominant the spirit of rage really is. And so after all of that, I woke up and even checking my heart, and I was like, God took the spirit of rage out of me. And I'm like, I'm not angry. I'm not mad. And I used to get mad. I used to go from 0 to 100 in like a second. I would just pop off like a second. And I'm like, wow, this spirit is really gone. And I credit it all to God, because he led me to the right person, to the right exercise, and then he completed it. Just like the Bible says, someone plants, someone waters, but God gives the increase. The manifestation of being born again is from someone planting the seed, someone watering it to lead me to the waters, and God giving the increase. And I use that with this whole thing. Someone planted, someone watered, but God gave the increase, meaning God brought the final redemption to me. He took out the spirit of rage. God brought the increase, which means he took it out. He decreased it and took it away from me. And that's the whole point, is that I give God all praise, honor, and glory, because if he didn't do that in my life, I would probably be in jail or dead. And it's not because of the decisions I make, it's because of the spirit of rage that would have taken over me. And for somebody out there that has been dealing with the same thing, hurt, church hurt, youthful hurt, don't matter what type of hurt you're dealing with, rejection, whatever it is that you're dealing with, man, God can restore you and fix you. And I promise you that. He did it to me. He did it to me. So I'm grateful to God for the opportunity to share this testimony with you guys, because we only get one try at this life, and God is forever trying to, I shouldn't say trying to, God is forever delivering us from the things evil, according to the Lord's Prayer. Deliver us from evil, but lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Absolutely. That is what God does. He delivers us from evil, and not just an enemy attack, but the evil that is within us and the evil that is trying to influence us. God brings deliverance. So I thank every one of you guys for your time and your patience in hearing my testimony, because it's real. All right. I love you guys, man. God is good all the time. And I think that we really need to just acknowledge him for who he is and take him at his word. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been hearing two words. I've been hearing redemption, and I've been hearing that God can't lie. That's what the scriptures say. God is incapable of lying. He can't lie, because he's pure holiness. The scripture says, let God be true and every man a liar. Every man has a fallen nature, but God is so holy. He doesn't even have the ability to lie because he can't, because he is truth. Within truth, there is no way that it could be a lie. So every time you hear something that's true, it's true. And God is true. Let God be true. That is who he is. He is truth. But every man a liar. Every man who is born in sin, shapen in iniquity, has the ability to lie. But God doesn't. So take God at his word, because he doesn't lie. He said he'll never leave you nor forsake you. He will never leave you comfortless. I will come to you. That's a promise from God. Believe it, trust it. In Jesus' name, be blessed.